Now that Britain has left the European Union, how do you think India assesses its relationship with the UK?
I think the UK has always been a very important partner. It's not only because UK was part of the EU. In fact, it's the other way around. I think UK was an important partner for us in the EU, but UK was important to us anyway. And in so many ways, I mean, quite apart from the old links and so on, but in terms of economics, in terms of defense, these are links that have always been very strong. I personally think that actually the UK's absence from the EU will make our relationship with the EU slightly more difficult to manage. Mm-hmm. But that's a separate problem. But in a sense, the UK not being part of the EU means that we have an opportunity to actually not just rebuild, but to build up the relationship in many new ways. And I think that's what we saw at this recent summit between the two prime ministers and this roadmap to 2030, which is pretty ambitious, mm-hmm. and which the ministers have been speaking about. So I'm pretty hopeful for India-UK relations going forward. In fact, I think it makes it easier in some ways not to have to worry about what Brussels thinks about some of these issues, because in the past, many of these were also in their competence.
What do you make of the Biden administration and Modi? And
well, there hasn't been much personal contact thanks to COVID since, but there has never been an American president who's come to office knowing more about India than President Biden. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the top ranks of his cabinet, those who deal with foreign policy, whether it is, Secretary of State Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, CIA Director Bill Burns, who was instrumental in doing the civil nuclear deal, by the way, all of them know India very well. Mm-hmm. And are very familiar with India. We've all worked with them. So for me, this is a team who is professional, competent, and knowledgeable about India, which is rare. It's not always that you get all this combination of factors. And to have it at the very top actually creates, I think, an opportunity, which as Indians, I mean, I think we should actually, nurture this moment and see how we can advance the relationship further, transform it further. We've seen it transformed in the last 30 years, India-US relations. But let's see what we can do now. And I think that's in this change situation. It's going to be interesting to see how we can take it forward. So I'm relatively optimistic. It's not as though they've been replaced, across the board or anything. In fact, that I think will continue. Because, I mean, we saw, for instance, in the S-400s, air defense and the missiles, they have the best missiles in the world. They have the best system in the world. And we will buy those wherever we can get them. And their systems are rugged, reliable, and cheap. So I don't see that changing very much. I think what's changing is the context in which India-Russia strategic relations operate. And that is partly because there's Western pressure on Russia. It's being driven to cooperate with China ever more closely. And that will introduce some element of worry. But, ours is a relationship which has gone through all kinds of things. It survived Cold War, unipolar world, post, global financial crisis. In fact, this confusion that we face today between orders. So I am fairly sure that we can manage that because we do look at things very similarly. We do have similar common interests. And there will be times when we do more together, there'll be times when we do less. But the basic congruence is still there and will continue. So I'm not so worried people get very worried, the Russians don't like the idea of Indo-Pacific. Okay, so they don't. I mean, Brezhnev put forward an idea of collective security in Asia, Asian collective security. We never endorsed it, but it didn't change our relationship. It didn't affect that. So, we can, these are, frankly, if you read the headlines, you start getting worried. But I don't think this relationship is much more than the headlines.
Okay.